Hey everybody, welcome back to the Westwood Living Podcast. Tom Leyden with you. A little bit of an echo in this room, but there's good reason for that. Joined today by Paul McGovern. How are you, my friend?
I'm very good, thank you.
Good. So we were just talking about exactly what to call you, and you have many different titles because you are, of course, part of the CorMC partnership. You are the Mick in the CorMC partnership, if I'm not mistaken, right?
That's correct, yes.
So whether it be co-owner or partner or contractor who oversees major projects, you kind of do it all, don't you?
A little bit, maybe jack of all trades. I think that might be how the saying starts. But
well, I've enjoyed getting to know you. Number one, primarily because I love how you turn a phrase. You got a great way of speaking about you, and it's always entertaining. You make me chuckle a lot of times. So I'm sure we're going to have a couple of those moments here during this conversation. But for those of you who have driven down Route 109 from Westwood through that stretch where you're kind of in Walpole, Dover, Medfield in about 90 seconds, that little stretch that's in Dover features a brand new development that Paul and his team have overseen. It's been a major project. That's exactly what we're going to be talking about, officially called the Pastures at Dover, and we're close. As you drive by, you can see today specifically, I see trees ready to go in the ground today. So it has been a journey, but you are approaching the finish line.
yes, we're very nearly there. We're hoping in the next couple of weeks, first tenants are scheduled to move in here on June 1st. We're mid-May now, so within the next 3 weeks, we're hoping to have the first occupants here in the building.
So take people back through the process, because many of us who were here when it first started knew that this was pretty much open land except for one house that was kind of tucked towards the back of this property. So how long was this project in the works, and when did you actually acquire the land, and from start to end, how long has it taken?
So yes, it's been quite a process. There were actually two more or less derelict houses. There were people living in them up until probably 2018, but they were in very poor condition. We actually acquired the site in 2019, at the end of 2019, December 2019, and started the permitting process early in 2020. It's a multi-phased process. The first thing you've got to do is go to the state for site approval, which probably took close to a year. Then we worked with different departments in the town of Dover to get a comprehensive permit, which again took probably close to a second year. And then as we have some wetlands at the back of the property, we also had to work with Dover Conservation Commission. So basically we spent close to 3 years from the time we purchased getting the permits before we actually put a shovel in the ground. And we started on site working in January/February of last year, 2023. And here we are, May 2024, and we're almost finished.
Yeah, you can see it coming to fruition. And one of the things, like the number just went up. I didn't know you were going to be 61, right? So now we know it's 61. Yes. And just give us an overview of how many units, what was the vision when you and your partners looked at this space and wanted to create apartments that are for lease. What was your vision of what you were looking to accomplish?
So yeah, we initially, all along, our intent was to try and put a multifamily building on here. There is a serious lack of, first of all, apartments of any description, but secondly, affordable apartments in Dover. There is really nothing to compare with this property in the town of Dover, and not a lot in some of the other adjacent towns as well. So the intent always was to put an apartment building here. We ended up initially with, the intent was 39 units. We have ended up with 34 units. It's part of the 40B program, so 25% of those units, which turns out to be 9 units, are in the affordable program. So there are 25 market rate units and 9 affordable units. There's a mix. We have 5 one-bed units, 17 two-bed units, and 12 three-bed units.
Well, I think it speaks to the demand that, I mean, this is still a construction zone, and you've had success, people making the commitment and saying, sign me up. As soon as they're ready, I'm in. I mean, you've got a number of them already. People signed up, correct?
Yes, we're not finished, and we have a bunch of leases. We have a bunch of leases signed for people to move in starting June 1st.
That's great. So you got a little bit of pressure associated with that too. But it's not just one bed, so you have a wide array of availabilities here. Do you know the numbers in terms of how many threes, how many twos, how many ones you got?
Yeah, there's 5 one-beds, 17 two-beds, and 12 three-beds.
All right, so there is something for everybody. And we've had a number of conversations, and you don't necessarily pinpoint exactly the type of person who's going to come in, because who knows, but you can predict a little bit based on life experience who you're going to get. And we've seen some of that already. You know, you got people who are separated, going through divorce, people with midlife changes, and you know, they need apartments, they need something that they can have accessible to them rather quickly and stay close to family if a family is still close, whether that be Medfield or Walpole or Westwood. Has it been going as you expected in that regard?
To this point, it has exactly as we expected. Yeah, the kind of the target market. Obviously, we're a slightly more rural setting here than a downtown setting. In a town like Dover, which is typically kind of more of a rural population. So the type of clientele that we were expecting here, which has come to fruition, we were expecting potentially retirees leaving their bigger house in Dover or some of the surrounding towns. We have had interest from Needham, Medfield, a bunch of the surrounding towns that want to stay close to their family and want a place probably lower maintenance, obviously not as big as what they were dealing with. So we've definitely had quite a few retirees interested in the property. We have had, as you said, one or two divorcees who want to stay close to their families but don't necessarily want or can't afford another single family house at a time probably of added cost, but want to stay close to family and kids and all of that. So we definitely have had a few, I think one or two leases are signed to people who are in that scenario. I think one of our first tenants that has signed up here is a doctor in Boston who has moved to the area and wants a rural setting relatively close to the city. So we're very accessible here. It's quite easy to get onto 95 and to get into Boston that way. So we're hoping that that's a good target market as well, people working in the city but looking for a rural setting.
What's pretty cool, folks, is that when you think about a place that's being constructed in 2023, 2024, you've had time now as developers to adjust to life as it is in the early 2020s. And that's different than it even was when you first purchased the land in 2019. We walked downstairs and there's a number of added amenities here. I mean, yes, you have a gym, and it would be expected if you're going to move into a place like this for it to have a gym. And there's a beautiful community room, which has a patio outside, which is great. But a couple of things downstairs that caught my attention, which were really cool and kind of signature. One, you've got a dog washing room, which is so cool. I mean, is that standard in an apartment? How did you learn that would be a key selling point?
So we have a property management firm on who have been guiding us kind of and helping us through the process, and that is one of the key things that we're told right now. So one of the features we have outside here as well is we have a dog walk or a dog park down the back of the site, fenced in, and obviously to avoid people bringing dirty dogs and dirty animals into it, we have put a dog wash in the basement of the building. So there's and there'll be a dryer and that associated with it. So yeah, it's an important feature for how people live today.
And not only that, but you have, I think, 4 separate rooms that people who are tenants here could use for office space. So that concept of working from home, you could literally escape your apartment if you wanted to and utilize one of those rooms downstairs.
Yep, there's 4 rooms that were designed specifically just for people to work from home, not necessarily on a full-time basis, but if somebody wants to spend half a day working from home and kids are in an apartment or they just want a change of scenery, we've got I guess you just call them home working spaces in the lowest level here for people to use.
Let's take a step back and learn a little bit more about you and your partnership with Corrigan. And you see the different signs, and you've seen the evolution of the signs to be just Corrigan in certain projects to now CorMC in other projects. How did you two come about partnering?
How did we come up? We became friends, I guess, first through our Irishness. I met Pat through mutual friends living in Dover. I live in Needham, so I'm local as well. And we became friends initially, and then we became partners, and this is where we've ended up.
What I love is that when we first met, and I got a great opportunity just to get to know you a little bit more through the various conversations we had, but one of the things you said to me is like, yeah, Tom, we can do projects like this. And I think this is proof positive that we can do projects like this. But you also want to advance your business when it comes to working with homeowners in a town like Westwood. Take us through the kind of work that CorMC does for a general homeowner in a town like Westwood.
Yeah, so the backbone, and this is probably the project that we're doing here is a little bit more unique to, well, particularly to me. My background is in residential construction for the most part, in new build and in remodeling. My preference is for more significant additions. We do kitchen and bathroom remodels, but typically I'm looking for the slightly bigger projects where we're adding an addition, adding a floor onto a property, adding on over a garage, giving people more space and reworking. One of my favourite things to do is to work with homeowners to come up with a vision of how to basically bring an older house back to life. Something that I think I'm reasonably good at through my experiences over the year and what works for modern day living and working with homeowners and finding out what their needs are and coming up with solutions that work for them and work for the property.
It helps to have somebody who's been through the process and somebody who knows the steps that you have to take. But from your perspective, can you paint the picture of a perfect client? Like when it comes to planning and figuring out when to bring someone like you onto a project to manage expectations, because I'm sure the biggest question you have is related to timeline. Most people want it done yesterday, and I'm sure you have to temper that, particularly after the pandemic when so much of the timing has changed because of all the issues surrounding shipping around the world. If you could get people in the right frame of mind, when should they be talking to someone like you if they're thinking about a project?
So actually things have changed in that in a lot of regard, because the issue that a lot of people are having now is they want to do the project right now, but construction is expensive, so they're speaking now about a project that they would love to do, but for various reasons, interest rates, finances, all of that, typically the project is further down the line. The ideal time to get us in is at the earliest point in the planning stages, so that we can provide an architect, we can provide engineers, all of that if people don't have their own, but in the earlier planning stages, so that you plan basically an economical construction, that is something that works for the property and that's relatively straightforward to build, and that's designed, with the intent of the family in mind and how families live and how they work in their modern day. So typically, the earlier we can be brought in on a project, the more beneficial generally it is.
So how'd you get drawn into this line of work?
I grew up on a farm in rural northwest Ireland, and we were extremely self-sufficient. My dad built sheds for cattle and all of that, and it was all done. He did it all himself. So basically, since I was a kid, I've been dragged out of the house to help at various construction tasks. As it turns out, it's something that I have always enjoyed doing. So from as soon as I graduated from college, basically, I actually graduated from college as a teacher, and I was teaching construction studies, tech drawing, back in Ireland. But after 4 years, I left that and I went straight into the construction industry. And I've been working, for the most part, in residential construction for quite a few years since then.
When did you come to the United States?
I came to the United States in 2009, 15 years ago.
Okay, so not that long.
Not that long
Yeah,
ago.
what do you think? First 2 decades, what do you think about living here?
I'm still here after 15 years.
Well, you mentioned that you live in Needham, and tell me a little bit about your family and how everybody's adjusted to life in the U.S.
So when I came here, I was going out with who's my now wife, Jo, and we have 2 kids. Ben is 11, Anna is 6, both in elementary in Needham. We do love living in Needham, and I spend a lot of my time in Dover. A lot of our friends are in Dover. We've got good friends in Westwood and stuff as well. We do love this area. We love how accessible it is. To go north, south, east, west is so easy from any of the towns around here. So yeah, we're very happy in our world. I do get back to Ireland at least 3 or 4 times a year, which is great. Get to do some Irish socialising, which obviously you can do here as well, but it's nice to do it back at home.
I know this is the big project right now, but are there other big projects on the burner?
Yeah, so we are planning. There's very adjacent basically to this project. We are looking at a second similar project. We are also looking at one in Millis and one in Norwood, similar scale to the one that we have here.
Well, that's great. You're building a great footprint, right? And people are going to be able to see it and know exactly what it's going to look like. And I'm looking forward to seeing the grass.
Absolutely.
I drive by here every day, and I know I saw the trees. I got excited, and I know that once the grass comes, it's going to look like $1 million.
Yeah, and we'd like to encourage people to come and look at the property here and look at what we're building. And I have no problem any day that I'm here. I'm quite happy to show anybody. I guess we're proud of it, but just as an advertisement as well, to show anybody what we're doing.
And what we will do is when everything's ready for us and the electricity's on and there's not a construction zone going, we're going to bring our cameras in here and have you give us a little tour so people can take a peek at some of the apartments and begin to understand what you're doing, because that'd be kind of neat.
We look forward to it, and we would encourage anybody who is looking for accommodation, or this place is ideal for grandparents and stuff like that, or if anybody is looking for accommodation, we'd encourage them to check us out, please.
And I leave you with this: as you're listening to the podcast, you're going to see in Westwood Living, an ad for the Pastures at Dover. And that's important because that's the number one project right now. But remember, CorMC, as Paul just described, is there for you in your homes. So you might be seeing the ad specifically for the Pastures at Dover, but this is a company that can help you out when you're doing major builds. So keep that in mind. What's the number to call?
The best number to call is 978-377-1705.
Beautiful. Well, you heard it from the man himself. That's Paul McGovern from CorMC LLC. Come check out the Pastures at Dover right here on 109. And I wish you all the best. I can't wait to see it come to fruition, come to the finish line. I drive by it every day. So I've been watching it from the beginning, and it's really impressive to see it get so close.
Thank you very much. We're looking forward to getting it done.
All right, as always, folks, if you can think of somebody else who you'd like me to have a chat with, just hit me up on email, tleiden@bestversionmedia.com. I'll connect with that person and then share that conversation right here with you on the Westwood Living Podcast Network. But for now, that's the very latest from inside the demo apartment at the Pastures at Dover. This is Tom Leyden with Paul McGovern saying so long.